Now here is a simple question, but interviewer may ask you if you have like 0 to 3 years of experience. So what are the loop types in C Sharp? Now let's quickly go through it. First is while loop. Here is the code block. First initialization happening before the loop starts, then condition is set with the while keyword, and then after all the logic is performed, then last increment has to be done inside the loop at the end. That's it, sweet and simple. And here is the output of the while loop 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Until the condition is true, it will keep printing the result. Now second is do while loop, and here is the code. Now the only difference between while and do while is the statement inside. In case of do while, the statement inside do will must execute first time irrespective of the while condition. Any condition is there, first time this do will definitely execute whether the condition is true or not. Okay, so that is do while loop. Now here you can see the output, it is 100. Even though the condition is false, even it is printed because j is to 100 and it is not lesser than 10, right? The condition is failed, but still the output is printed as 100. So this is do while loop. Next is the for loop, very useful loop for developers. Here you will do the initialization, condition and increment in one line only. This is better than while loop as the number of lines of code are lesser here. It will keep printing until the condition is true. And here is the output. Last one is a very important loop and we call it for each loop. This is mostly used with the collections like array list, dictionary. So that kind of collections, it is mostly used. So suppose we have an array like this. Now we want to iterate all the elements of the array one by one. One way is to use the for or while loop, but there you have to check the count of the elements, right? The number of the elements. Also you have to you have to increment the values manually, like you have to write I plus plus something like this. But with for each loop you will just use the type like this, and for each will allow you to loop through the collection without even checking the count or doing the increment, and the output is same. So for each is better when you iterate some collection. So now you know what are the types of loops, when we should use what kind of loop, right? That is also important to know. What is the difference between continue and break statement? First, continue keyword. Okay, see, when a loop will start from 0, then it will start printing the values. But when the I variable will be equal to 3, then it will go inside this if condition. It will see the continue keyword. Now the role of the continue keyword is to stop the execution here and transfer the execution to the start of the loop back again. And see, this will be the output. The loop is printing 0, 1, 2, and then when it sees 3, it will goes inside, it will back to the top, and then it will skip the 3, and then it will print the 4. So the definition is continue statement end the loop iteration and transfer the control to the beginning of the loop. Now let me show you the break. Here is the code, the same code, but now it has been break instead of continue. Now when I is equal to 3, it will see break keyword, and then it will not go to the top of the loop like continue, but this break statement will end the loop iteration and transfer the control out of the loop, or you can say the break statement will exit from the loop, and this will be the output. See, the loop stops after printing 2 because break keyword exit the loop and no further execution of the loop will happen. So the definition is break statement end the loop iteration and exit the loop. This is the difference. What are the alternative ways of writing if-else conditions? This is a very simple question. I hope you already know if-else condition. Here is a sample of it. We have if condition and then else if, and the last condition is like this. Now, if level is software engineer, then salary should be 70,000. If salary is equal to 1 lakh, else 1 lakh 50,000. Okay. Now, there are other ways to write the same if-else condition so that you can minimize the number of lines of code. One is switch statement. Here you will just pass the level like this, and this case keyword will check the value. If it is SC, then salary equal to 70,000, and it will break. This break keyword will take the control out of the switch statement. This is one way. Okay. Now the another way to write this if else condition is ternary operators. This question mark and colon are called ternary operators. Here if level is equal to SC and that is true, this salary variable will be equal to the immediate option available after the question mark. In this case, if this is true, then salary will be 70,000. But if this is false, then value after the colon will be set to the variable, or we can check the further condition again. Here we are again checking the condition, and if this is true, salary variable will like 1 lakh. And if this condition is false, then salary will be the value which is just after the quotes, and here it is 1,50,000. So now you know all the three options and you can use any one of them. Now the next part of the question is when to use what. If you have one condition, you are setting only one variable throughout like this. See here in this if else condition, we are only setting the salary variable. Okay, only one variable. For this type, best option is to use ternary operators. Single line of code will do this, right? But when you are not setting just one variable but doing some different things, for example, you are printing something via writing console, console.writeLine here, then ternary operator is not the best option because it is suitable for the setting the values of the variable. Different logic will not fit inside this. For that, you can use case statement or if else condition, and here you can write any numbers of lines of logic. Okay, but in the case of case statement, you must have only one condition and checking only one variable. See here, if in the if else condition, if you can see, we are checking only one condition in if and else if, and also one variable value is checked. So it is better to use switch and case because then the like in case of switch, the lines of code are less. But if you have multiple condition inside one if condition, for example, multiple conditions here inside the if bracket using and or operators, or you are checking the values of multiple variables, for that switch is also not a good option. Then you have to use if else condition only. So that's why if else condition will because if else condition will accommodate all kinds of condition. So if possible, then use ternary or switch statements. That way your code will be clean, readable and short. But if it is not if not possible, there are multiple conditions and multiple like lines of statements, then you should use if else only. How to implement exception handling in C#? Exception handling in object-oriented programming is used to manage errors. Here you can see keywords try, catch and finally. A try block is a block of code inside which any error can occur. Okay. Now when any error will occur in try block, then it is passed to catch block to handle it. In real applications, if any error in try block, then inside the catch block we write the exception in the logs files. Okay, so that later developers can see that log files and can fix that error. At last, finally block is used to execute a given set of a statement whether an exception or error occur or not. For example, in this case, you see finally is printed even we got the error by dividing 0 by 0. If no error, then still the finally will be printed. That is the use of finally. Can we execute multiple catch blocks? The answer is no. We can write multiple catch blocks like this, but when we will run the application and if any error will occur, only one out of them will be executed based on the type of the error. See in the code here, we have two catch blocks, but when application will run and error will come, then only one out of these catch blocks will run at a time. Now you can ask then why we have written multiple catch blocks here. The reason is might be you want to handle different errors in different ways. For example, Suppose if there is an arithmetic exception error, you want to write some alert, okay, but for other errors you do not want to write any alert. So that is the purpose of multiple catch blocks. When to use finally in real applications? For example, here you are declaring a SQL connection and then you are opening it, right? Now due to any reason, if some error will occur here, then how the connection will close? Because con.close statement will not get executed, right? And if your connection will remain open, that is not good for performance. So for that reason, we can have the finally block, and you can write this con.close inside the finally block so that whether error will occur or not, this will always run. So the answer is finally block is mostly used to dispose the unwanted objects when they are no longer required. That is good for performance, otherwise you have to wait for garbage collector to dispose them. Can we have only try block without catch block? The answer is yes, we can have try block, but then we must have finally block without catch block. Okay, so this is the code. Here there is no catch block. Okay, but when we need the try and finally together without the catch, now this inside the try block, if the code go inside if condition, then the method will return from here, right? And the lines after this will not be executed. The con.close will never executed. So to make sure it will execute, we will put this con.close in the finally block. Now you can return from anywhere in the method, but the finally will definitely execute. That's why try and finally are sometimes good without the catch. What is the difference between finally and finalize? This is a silly question. Their name is somewhat similar, but they have no relation. But as it is an important question, so we will cover it. Finally is used for exception handling, right? Finalize is a method which is automatically called by the garbage collector to dispose the no longer needed objects. Garbage collection I will explain in other videos, but these are the differences between finally and finalize. Now here is a very important question from interview perspective. What is the difference between throw X and throw? Let's see the difference. Throw X will change the stack trace, whereas throw will preserve the whole stack trace. Let's try to understand this with the help of code. See here in the code we have used throw X, okay? From main method we called divided by 0 method, which is doing nothing but trying to divide 0 by 0. And therefore it will definitely throw an error. Okay, now we will catch this error in the catch block and then use throw X to send the error details to the main method. Okay, here it will goes inside the catch block and then exception stack trace will be printed. Okay, so this is the error printed. This is telling the problem is at line 32, right? But if you see at line 32, we have throw X. The root of the error is not here. Okay, we tried by dividing by divide. So 3x throw X is not the root of the error. So basically, throw X is basically not preserving the actual stack trace, and it is somehow changing the stack trace. All right. So now that is we are trying to 0 by 0. So this is not good. So what we will do, now we will use throw. So this is the example of the throw. See, here is the code. We have just replaced throw X with throw, nothing else. Rest of the body is exactly same. Now we will run it. Again the error that will be printed from here inside the catch block, right? And this will be the error. And this time it is showing carefully, see, it is showing the error is at line 28. And that is what is the right point of the error. That is the root of the error which we were expecting as a developer. We need the logs to give the right point, right? So the reason it is throwing the right error, because throw will not modify the actual stack trace. It will preserve the whole stack trace, and that is good, right? Because now developer can easily locate the error location for after checking the stack trace. Therefore, it's a best practice to use throw, as it preserves the whole stack trace. Sometimes you will not find any difference between throw and throw X if there is only one method. Okay, but if you are calling one method from other method, then you will find the difference. Okay, so that is the difference between the two.